Morning all, welcome to another Chess 24 Banter Blitz. So it's 11:30 UK time, and I should be getting my preview just to make sure everything's okay pretty soon. Okay, yep, there it is. This is the discount screen. I'd like to emphasize this 15% discount. If you want to play me or other streamers, use the voucher code Kingscrusher and you get 15% off. So bear that in mind. Kings is plural, by the way. Kingscrusher. So yep, discount code. Let's go to the challenge page now and take the first challenge. Okay, killer cat. So I'll start with e4, I think this morning. e4. Smith Mora. So there's a book by Esserman if you want a book on Smith Mora. It is quite a respectable gambit, as gambits go, I believe, in my opinion. Especially for blitz chess. I mean, I think blitz chess is it is like a particular form of chess where you don't have to play necessarily the most accurate moves all the time. Just practical moves is quite often enough to win games. So all right, this looks like a weakening of the king side. Will that be punishable, I wonder? There's some dark square weaknesses around here. I'm wondering, and also, yeah, if the king's castling over there, it looks a bit airy actually. I'm going to do this, which opens up this diagonal for that bishop and starts marking some key dark squares. Okay, e5 is being hit here, and so is c3, but I'm just going to let c3 go. I'm just going to let that go. I think rook c1, bishop d3, queen e4 is my kind of threat here. If I had a few moves, that would be my threat. So if I get a tempo gain there, I'm not too concerned, because I want to play, yeah, this one and this one. This looks like just asking for trouble, these light square weaknesses. Right, I'm going to take that to keep that diagonal open. Now I'll play this. In fact, it seems here queen g6 looks strong because rook g7, queen e8. Oh, there's queen f8. Maybe. Okay. But this also looks strong. Knight h2 to g4. I'm going to go with this for a moment. In fact, yeah, queen g6 was probably a good idea. Even better here with knight h6 though. That's a good point. Maybe I should have taken my chance to play that. Yeah, that looks like a good defensive maneuver. Right. Let's drop this back. Yeah, that I could have taken out the h6 pawn. Yeah, that was a bit silly. I think I didn't see that happening. Queen f8 to g7. Okay. I probably need some more targets now. It's difficult, actually. Alright, there might be a target with rook c7, knight f5, rook f7, knight e3, rook g7. I'll go with this. That kind of gives me... Doesn't it give me this? I mean, maybe it doesn't. And then this and the knight h6 is good. Yeah, there were quite a few weaknesses to look after that, so it makes it more difficult. Alright, thanks for the game, Killer Cat. Okay. Yeah, how difficult the position is to play might be a sort of function of how many weaknesses you have to look after. So let's see. The classic rocker. Again, yeah, I don't mind this. This willingness to give dynamic play is something to be avoided. I think in Blitz, for me personally, it's too. I think it's too dangerous to handle the pressure here at the time limit. Basically, knight d5 is the immediate threat. Although knight d7 would seem to hold. g5 does commit to weaknesses, which makes the position more difficult to play later. I mean, there might even be knight takes g5. Let's see, knight d5. Oh, okay, that hits that bishop there actually, as well as f6. So I'm thinking I'm going to play bishop takes f6 and h3. If bishop h5, g4. Okay, it's pretty tasty, this position, I think, in terms of just bishop takes f6 and then h3. This looks like, because I've fragmented the pawns here, if I get a knight to f5, or even, I don't know, knight f4 is also interesting. Hitting that bishop h7, knight h5, transfer a knight to h5 here. You can imagine. The problem is if a knight lands on e5 here, if my queen's on f3. So for the moment, I'm going to do this, threatening knight takes and knight e6. Actually, immediately, I've just realised knight takes and knight e6. So the queen f3, the damper on queen f3 for me, it's asking for a tempo gain later with a knight coming to e5 potentially, but maybe that doesn't matter so much. Queen g3. But the immediate threat is knight h takes g6, fg, knight e6 check, forking king and queen. Now let's see bishop h7. Bishop h7. This might be... Okay, this is going into this. It's... yeah, I was going into that. Okay, thanks to the game, Classic Rocker. Okay, Onam. Okay, hi Onam. Right, I'll play Slav Triangle, because I think this is an opening which is fairly reliable. Alright, now which way to take? I think taking opens up the bishop, but it's that minority attack issue later. But there is that square, which is, you can put some more pressure on. I'll get the h7 pawn out of the way here. I'll go for knight f8 to e6. And I'll challenge this bishop. I'm trying to untangle to eventually leave some pressure on e4 actually. You can imagine the minority attack on this side, but I'm thinking here I'm going to double rooks and start some kingside attack with my e4 strong point as a peg to swing some attacking pieces over here. So if we have a look at this position, c6 is a bit of a liability, yes. Knight e5 is interesting. Knight g5 might be the start of something to try and weaken the opponent's king side here. Even if it even if it's double pawns here, I've got maybe g4 after. This is also potentially a tactical liability, this rook. I'm wondering, like, bishop takes h7 actually hits that rook. There's 2 pieces for the bishop. Well, there's knight e4 as well. Takes, bishop e4. Okay. Well, there might actually be c5 here as well to consider. Just to try and get rid of this backward pawn liability. I'm wondering, knight takes d7, knight takes d7. I could give this a shot, c5. I'm not convinced by this, bishop takes h3, because a rook takes e7. If he took, then I'd take that rook. But rook takes e7 there. So given that, I'm thinking now c5. I'm not totally convinced. Okay, c5. There is a potential promise of a protected passed pawn here. If c4 was allowed, then that is a protected passed pawn. Okay. We swap off these rooks then. Okay, can I play knight takes without penalty? Well, there's knight b5, queen b6. I'm still holding that knight, so I'm wondering if this is possible. Or rather, I hope this is possible. Knight b5, queen b6. It's almost a bit wobbly, almost like a loose piece scenario, but not quite. Okay. Rook c8. I'm wondering if I'm just going into a self pin there. So what about rook d8 for a moment? I'm going to try and tactically hold on to my pawn. Okay, queen e6 is holding on, I hope. Now knight d5, rook d5 holds the knight. Okay. But no, this is a bit scary with the isolated pawn, I've got to say. It's a bit scary with this isolated queen's pawn. One benefit of an isolated queen's pawn is the pegs, the adjacent pegs on e4 and c4. Now with that peg I can hit f2, so you can imagine knight e4 taking there's some pressure on. Ooh. That's not a nice move to me. Knight h3, queen h3 is a bit tactical. Okay, I better not run out of time here. Do something. But what? No, I don't like this. It's not a good outcome. Knight e7, it's just not nice. That bishop c4 move was very good. Knight e4, I don't know. It's not stable. I don't think it's any stability now on e4. Knight e7 looks dangerous. Alright, I hope I can do this. I think just rook c1 is uncomfortable for me. Yeah, just rook c1. Okay. There's knight g6 check there. Whoa. There's knight g6 check there. And it's, okay, I'll try holding, I don't know. I'll try holding this. Yeah, rook f8, there was knight g6 check. For queen takes f8. No, okay. This for the e5 square. I'm just thinking, or knight, maybe knight e6. Okay, what's the threat? Can I play knight takes e4 here? Maybe knight takes e4. I don't actually know what I'm doing to rook e1, but that's besides the point. Okay. Okay, knight d6, maybe knight d6 here. And there's queen g4. Oh, let's just get the queens off. 2 pawns for a piece is not very nice. I've been tactically murdered in this game from that bishop c4 point. Get some clock burn. I'll try and go for f2, I think. Oh! Alright, is there a check here to win that knight? Knight takes g5, rook a5 check. Yeah, that was very, very well played. I was on the ropes, being tortured on the ropes. Okay, right, carving, thanks, carving. I'll play this gambit here. Bishop c4 looks okay. This looks almost as if it could be dangerous. Oh, alright, I'll take here and then I think I'll take on b7 here. Although taking on e6 would have been interesting. I think queen c6 check is interesting here anyway. So queen d7, I just take on a8. King f8, bishop a3 check and rook d1. Looks like good tempo gains. So rook d1. Now the queen's got to hold on to a8 here. Or not. Alright, if I go queen c5 for a moment, and then castling an f4, this looks like good news position. If I can castle. Okay, let's hold on to the queens. Because when there's a king safety issue, I think it's sometimes interesting to hold on to the queens. Now this looks, yeah, this doesn't look too hot to win that queen there. I'll take this guy, I think. Alright, I'll play the check there. And yeah, I think I'll go around for queen f3 now. And queen h3. Alright, thanks for the game, Calvin. Okay, Kaz. So I'll play e4. And I'll play this cautionary gambit. Okay, do I want to keep the lines open? I think I do, actually, because you get this backward pawn target sometimes, where it's a trade-off decision based on the exact position. But here, I'm thinking the backward pawn might swing it, swing the trade-off. It's worth doing, because, I don't know, sometimes you might want to leave the pawn on f5 to play g4 and taking later on the g4, but yeah, I think this is okay, this position, for the moment. What you got to watch out for is the center mobilizing. As long as it can be fixed, it's I guess it's like a hanging, not hanging, well, kind of. No, it's more of a backward pawn scenario. But with hanging pawns, you're supposed to fix them down. They are kind of fixed down here. Let's take away this b4 square for a moment, and maybe b4. Just to kind of release the tension here, try and get back to release that central pawn tension. If I can reduce the responsibility of d4 care, I can do other stuff. If I knew that, for example, c4, bishop c2, I've got a much more stable center, then I won't have to worry about my center collapsing so much. So getting the opponent to release the central tension is a common idea, or something you'd usually welcome. But it's again, it really depends on the positions. In many games of Magnus Carlsen with black against Anand, Carlsen has played a move like c4 in certain positions, because later, it's like a passed pawn, or on the queen side emerges. So yeah, these are just general patterns, really. I mean, so anyway, knight takes e5 here, and rook b1 might be okay. So there's an isolated queen's pawn there. So I'm playing against the isolated queen's pawn here, rather than with it. This f2 looks a bit fragile here, in fact. Okay, bishop d4, there's bishop takes h7 check, and queen takes d4. But, for example, it looks exposed on that f-file. Black has got that f-file pressure. And has swapped the backward pawn for an isolated queen's pawn, which isn't so bad here. So overall, yeah, there's still everything to play for, I think. So let's see. Bishop g5 puts some pressure indirectly on d5, and there might be bishop f6 and queen h5 later, hitting h7 and d5. So this kind of thing, when you give up the bishop like that, quite often it's the case. I don't want to activate the rook. I'll play b5. Quite often when you play a move like that, you give up. You look at the colour of the bishop that you're giving up, and often you're intensifying the pressure on the opposite colour. So you can see, for example, if I took on f6, d5 and h7 is weakened. So often that's a prelude to that sort of colour campaign you've got going, to give up a bishop for a knight. You see that in other openings. Sometimes a bishop's giving up on c6, so you get like better grip on dark squares. It's an automatic sort of pattern thing. When you give up a bishop for a knight, you're sometimes undermining a bit the squares. Okay, so here bishop takes f6 yeah, it does undermine a bit actually, h7 and d5, because the knights are holding opposite coloured squares to the bishop. So taking that knight off, look at the opposite coloured squares to the bishop you've just given up. And there's like the tactic, queen h5, which hits d5 and h7. This is a very, very common mechanism. And, you know, sometimes it seems weird to give up a bishop, but that consideration is often very important, to just give up a bishop for a knight. So the possibility of queen h5 here is very tempting with that isolated queen's pawn. So, yeah, let's have a look at this. Bishop takes, rook takes, queen h5. Okay, my rook, I could take on e8 first, which makes this better because it would fracture the pawns here at 1, 2, 3, isolated pawns on rook takes. So I'll take on e8 first. This makes this a lot more attractive. As long as my back row, I don't think there's an immediate back row issue. My knight and bishop are on f1. So I'm going to go with this now. As I say, sometimes this move is, paradoxically, it's a paradox actually, because you'd think that, yeah, it's a terrible idea, but if you look, it's like a prelude to a light square attack here. Now there is bishop e6 to hold d5 and h7. There is bishop e6. Actually, weakness of the last move there. There's queen takes e8. This is creaking. Can't cover these without dropping e8 there. All right, so queen takes d5. Bishop e6. It does seem to be a pawn, as long as my queen is not getting trapped. This tactic needs to be investigated, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Check out the forcing moves. Okay, I'm going to take on d5 here for a moment. Okay, bishop e6. Right, bishop e6. Now there is queen d4, or maybe queen f3, or just putting the queen back on h5. I think I'll put the queen back on h5 for a moment. That, I hope, is okay. Now bishop takes, have a look here for forcing moves for queen e8, king g7. Now there's no follow-up, it seems, otherwise that might have been tempting to deflect the rook away from e8. But you've got to check always the configuration changes on every move when you look at forcing moves. So bishop takes, check here. Again, it's still not working. It seems, anyway. It's still not working. So what about knight f5? Well, I'm worried about my back row. Knight f5 or knight e4. Maybe knight e4. Maybe knight e4. I have to check out rook e4 to see any nifty back row tactics. I don't think they exist. I mean, look at the crazy forcing moves as well, to be honest. Just in case, you know, because it's very difficult to keep track of configuration changes. Here, f5 could be winning a piece. So let me put that back, that move, by putting it on my own piece. That's a good trick. If you want to undo a move, just put it on your own piece. So g3, I don't want to run into, self-pin with f5. So let's play g3, which gives the king some air. I've just dropped my queen, but thankfully there's knight takes f6 check. No, I didn't mean to drop my queen. Okay, it worked out okay, but no, I didn't quite mean to give up my queen. Hands up. That wasn't the intention. Oh dear. Oh, isn't chess fun? Okay, yes. Okay, that aside, small technicality there. Anyway. It's good to look at the opponent's last move threat as well. Okay. I seem to remember a horrible bishop g5 system. I'm wondering if I can play a Shak Benoni, or something different against my opponent here. I don't want his bishop. I think he's a specialist with bishop g5. at least, okay, this is... okay, so what's going on here? Can I go for f5, f4 and hold the e5 square? This is one immediate idea that comes into mind. Except he kicks it back immediately, which is probably a good idea. It creates some weaknesses potentially, so maybe that's fine. b6, bishop b7, knight c5. What am I looking forward to there? I suspect I want to weaken him and have an endgame where my king's gliding on dark squares. That's an endgame scenario. Can you imagine? In the endgame, I'm hoping all the pawns on light squares will be the downside, the downfall and the downside of the opponent. All these pawns on light squares, the adjacent dark squares. You can imagine the king gliding in the endgame. So sometimes this is double-edged. It weakens my king in the short term, but it's weakening the dark squares. It depends if I can survive the onslaught. Maybe f5. Okay, there's queen c3 check as well to think about. Can I play f6 for a moment? And then maybe e5 or knight c5. e5, I'm giving a lot of squares on the plate here. Maybe a5 and then knight c5. I don't want b4 necessarily. If I'm going to stick a knight on c5, I don't want it like kicked so easily. So that was, I've got the en passant option now. That's sometimes a neat trick just to fix down. So you want a knight on c5, but you don't want it with hassle of b4. Okay, e6 is hit, so let's take that and maybe even get the queens off with queen c5. If I got the queens off, I can actually get rid of my backward pawn. Okay, I've got a tempo on the knight, on the bishop here if he took. So I'm hoping I've got time for this. So takes, I'm on the bishop. I haven't got rid of this backward pawn though. Oh, hang on, he's dropping a centre pawn. He's dropped a centre pawn here. I don't know if that was intentional. If I played e5, there's knight d5. So if I want to take this pawn out, if taking here he could get rid of that target. Maybe it is best for me to just simply take that and hope that there's some weaknesses to celebrate. Oh, that's an interesting decision point here, roundabout here. I can imagine taking e5. I'm just fixing down my d6 pawn. This position with takes isn't so clear, although rook e8, knight d5. Okay, I'll go with that. Yeah, there's takes in knight d5, knight b6. All right, but this pawn looks a bit vulnerable. Knight d5, rook e6, knight b6. This doesn't do white any favors. This g pawn, surely. I don't want to draw because I don't think this was intended. I don't think this position my opponent intended. I think it's very nice for me. The reason I think it's nice is if I get rooks on the 7th with knight h3 here, I think this is very dangerous. You can imagine g5, knight f4 after 2 rooks on the 7th. Oh, there's an immediate... Okay, there, knight takes is annoying. Alright, let's do this for a moment. To give the knight e4 if needed. Also, this f pawn coming to f3 looks dangerous. As well as rook g6 check. Okay. Okay, there's a few things to bear in mind here. But this is annoying that rook b8 is not working because of knight a4. What does that knight want to do? What is this? Can I not just kick this knight? Okay, rook f7 maybe. Oh, it gives me rook g6 check. That's dangerous. This is dangerous for king safety. Now king h1, knight g3 check. King h3. I'm thinking there, and rook b3, rook g3. Also there's f4. There's a few possibilities here which are very interesting. There's also f4 for knight g3. That's interesting. Okay, so if I go with knight g3. Now rook f5 to h5 looks dangerous. King h3. Alright, rook g4 looks good in some respect, but there's king h3. Now is there king h3? Is there anything going on here? Knight f5. I can try and get this pawn. There's no rook g1 here pinning my rook. If I can get this pawn, I think I've got some sort of attack in this position. Bring up. Take away that e4 square from the knight. There's also h4, h3 to think about. Oh, okay. If I put some pressure over here, is there knight b5? Right, that gives me knight e4, which gives me rook g2 potentially. Rook g2, which gives me knight c5. Now king d4, there's knight b3 almost winning the rook, but that means rook f4 is ruled out. Can I go for... Okay, rook d2 check here, or h4. Okay, is knight takes b6. Oh, there's knight b3 check. So rook f4, knight b3 check. Knight d6, knight b3 check almost. Okay, that's a dangerous pawn. I gotta stop. Can I get two connected passed pawns? If he takes, there's two connected passed pawns. So my pawns are a bit dangerous. His pawn is dangerous. I'm thinking rook f4, knight b3 check. This is scary stuff. a6, rook b8, a7. Right, can I do this? Rook f4, knight e6 check. So a7's threatened. I'm going to just take that off. Oh no, well played. Yeah, okay, it's just the time pressure and stuff. Okay, thanks. That was very good. Well played. Okay, Sebi. I don't mind this if I don't get smashed with inaccuracies. I might have some good centre pawns here in the future. I can play for f5 maybe, or is it double-edged? Knight e8 to g7 and then f5. Knight e8, g7, f5. With the bishop pair expanding like this, this doesn't look like a position where the punishment's immediate, because the centre's kind of locked down. So when you do a flank operation like this, if the centre's locked down, could you imagine like c3 and d4 busting open centre lines going to my king? But there's two factors here. The centre's locked down and I got the bishop pair. So I think this plan is okay. Knight g7, f5. Knight g7, f5, f4, g5. Okay, this just carries on. It's been good. Knight e6 to f4 also looks very tasty immediately. Any king h2, then maybe queen d7 to stop g3, because then there'll be queen 8 takes h3. So just knight e6 to f4 looks dangerous. Yeah, there might be a sack here. Got to factor in these forcing moves. So knight f4 though looks as though that's dangerous. Does he play g3? Right. Okay, f5 now. Or am I asking for trouble? He could take, and then something like knight e5 after maybe, but let's go for that. If I can get in f4, I'd be quite happy. Taking this f4, I would have that g file. So let's say king h8, rook g8 after. So yeah, okay, maybe that's okay. I've got to watch out now for knight e5. What about there's also bishop h6, rook f7, knight e5. It starts to open up my king. Okay, let's try and make this a bit more solid. There's also this idea, okay, rook a7 to overhead g7. I think I've seen this in the Kasparov game once, but there's bishop h6 at the moment. If I played f4, I give up that e4 square. A knight could reroute to e4, but if he uses that knight, there's knight d4, so that doesn't matter. Maybe f4 is playable here. Knight d2, knight d4. If I can get f4 and rook g7, I mean that'd be cool. f4 and rook g7. Okay, that seems to be okay. Does he play bishop h6? Or was that bishop like trapped there later? Is that the problem? Maybe it's kind of stranded there after f4 later. So a5 is also a liability. I don't mind losing it necessarily. A5 pawn. There's queen e1 anyway, probably to win that by force. So let's see. Rook g7 though coming up, and then concretely, the pawn chain here is the target. So something like knight g5, bishop takes h3, and queen c8. With the rook on g7, this could be dangerous. Let's imagine a king h2 there. Okay, queen e1 would have won the pawn. Maybe, okay, I'll build up on this pawn chain now. In fact, there might be a subtler way of playing this. Queen d7, knight g5, knight h3. Queen d7, there's knight b6 there as well. Is the idea, I think, d4. Okay. I can just take that pawn. I think I will just, mind you, no, I think it doesn't do me too many favours actually, because it opens up that a5 again. That's undoubling pawns there though. Alright, I will undouble my pawns. Knight d4, I'm fracturing my pawns. Is there any method in the madness here? I'm wondering about this bishop on this diagonal. Knight takes, takes. c5 with the threat of bishop b7 later. Okay. Knight g5 here, just to hold on to e5. So takes, knight takes f3. Alright, rook takes g5 here. Just hold on to e5 for a moment. Actually, bishop e6 to d5 would be a way of getting this bishop on the diagonal. Bishop e6 to d5 here. So queen c6, bishop d5. Okay, he's hitting my queen. Queen going to g6 seems okay. Let's put this on the board to hit g2. Put more pressure on with queen g6 holds e4 square against knight e4. Yeah, thanks for the game, Sebi. That was too dangerous, that. Okay. Right. Okay. On did we just played on earlier, didn't we? So I'll go. I'm sure we just played on earlier. Let me just play some other challenges. Okay, 12-17. Did we play? I'm imagining this. On was earlier. So I'm just I'm pretty sure. It rings a bell. I was just trying to make sure I spread the opponents out a bit. Okay. I can play him again, but okay, I'll play him again maybe. Just let's see, castles and bishop e6. This wouldn't do white any favours to take on c6, because it would heal my d5 square. So this is a curious position. Okay. Knight d4 might be a way of shielding my d5 and d6 pawns. Rook c8 would seem handy. Okay, I think knight d4, just to shield d6 for a moment. I wonder if queen b6. Okay, we got opposite colour bishop scenario. G6, king g7. Okay, if I play king g7, I get that e8 square is a problem. I'll protect the bishop here. Now he's released that e8, so I can put a rook there. Can I try doubling here? Is he going to actually give me this file? Aha. Now d5 seems vulnerable as well. getting up on d5 here. Okay, I think I can just take that without incurring a fracture. Although, yeah, the h file could be dangerous. Yeah, the h file could be dangerous. Oh, hang on, I've got an idea. I get the queens off with queen takes d5 soon. Maybe not immediately, because I'll incur a pawn fracture. But rook h1, queen takes d5, rook takes h5, queen takes f3. I don't want my pawns wrecked. So can I do that in such a way without getting the pawns wrecked? So rook g5 first. And then I'm threatening queen takes d5 here. Alright, I'll take this off now. And oh, it looks like rook e3. If queen h4, h5, I think rook e3 is starting to pile pressure on. In fact, queen h4, queen takes f3. In fact, I'm threatening bishop e5 now, I think, for rook takes g3. Okay, I'm holding f7, so I don't know if this is working necessarily. Although I'm wondering why I've just given up the rook there. Okay, but anyway, there's queen takes f3. Yeah, that was a kind of rook blunder. Oh well. But anyway, it seems queen takes f3 check is... I'm really in control of these games, aren't I? Okay, thanks, Emma Lewis. Okay, thanks. That is bad because of queen takes f3, I expect. Alright. Okay, whether I've played him or not, he's got a second challenge in, so that's... Okay. Okay, I might have to abort this. That's good. Let's abort this anyway. Let's carry on challenges then. So player number 5. Player number 5. What? Okay. Singapore. Might have to abort this as well. Moving on. Pablogi. Pablog. I don't know. Pablog. Yeah, so I'm playing Sicilian in these games a lot. So knight off. I'll try and put the brakes on e5. I'm thinking b5, e5, bishop b7 just in time, I hope. Maybe knight d7 is a bit safer. Now bishop b7 and b4 later. Although I'm wondering if I'm encouraging queen h3 here. Yeah, e5, bishop e7, queen h3. That has been tested then. Okay, in fact, that's a bit of a relief because he's kind of blocked that h7. I'll use this square as well. I think b4 is also nice to play in general, trying to weaken e4 a bit. Oh, there's also knight f takes g4 hitting this bishop. I just realised. Okay, that's a move I've still got in hand. If he moves the knight, he could take on f6 immediately, but then I still got knight g4 after. So this looks interesting. Queen h4. Whoa. What's this? Okay, I'll take on c3 then. I don't mind activating the rook on the f file. Yeah, okay, that was check, but I'm going to check now on knight fg4. This cb king b1, how dangerous is that? Actually, knight takes e4 might be better, hitting the queen and taking on g5 after. Knight takes e7. Is check. Queen takes e7. Bishop takes knight takes f2. Knight takes, queen takes. Sorry, Paul, I'm in the streaming. I'm commit streaming. Let's put this on here, threatening rook b2, I hope. Bishop d5. Bishop d5. Rook b2 looks dangerous. I'll stop this bishop d5. Maybe bishop d2 on h4. Bishop d2. Is bishop d2 any good? Bishop d2. Or maybe just g6. Okay, I think bishop d2 for a moment. g6 is it seems okay. What's going on here? Okay, there is knight c4 now. That looks interesting. Now there's a concern about knight a3 perhaps at some point. Okay, I'll take this. I think I want to take this knight off. Do I? Probably. Or just get the queens off. Maybe the safe thing is those queen c5. It's looking like a good position for the queen, isn't? Okay, I'll try and get the queens off. It challenges some central squares there anyway. If the queen's not going to go back to a ridiculous place. I mean, there's knight d2 check anyway. Oh. Well, there's knight d2 check here, isn't there? As long as I don't get mated on g7. Right, I'm going to take this knight off to avoid getting mated on g7. Or hopefully avoid getting mated on g7. So queen e3 check next. Okay, so looks pretty good. I think I'll go with takes and queen a5, which is this Nakamura game finish. Actually, I just saw earlier. He mated with a queen a5 in Gibraltar. I was just checking out some Gibraltar games earlier. Okay, thanks, Pabloggy. Right, Kasparov student. Centre game. Right, there's an immediate bishop takes f7 check threat for queen b3, I believe. Bishop takes f7, queen b3. I think was e5 any good here? Maybe not. I'll just pin that for a moment. If I take and then queen b3, I'm hitting 2 pawns. Queen c8, I think e5 is good because it fixes e6 a bit more. That knight on e5 looks good. There might actually be, so queen, let's say queen c8, e5, d takes, knight takes, castles. Let's say that position. Rook d1 later. Oh. Alright, I'll take this pawn off. And just come back, or just take that. Oh, actually I don't want to lose e4. Maybe knight d4. Alright, I'll play knight d4. Okay. This looks like a target. Now that looks like a backward pawn. I need to stabilize with f3 and then castle, I think, or rook d1. So f3 to just hold e4, and then rook d1. You could try liberating the pawn with d5, I guess. But for a moment he's in check. So king e6, f3, any d5, maybe, say I castle d takes, then the knight's loose. Alright, I've got to watch d5 undermining the knight. Oh, there's knight takes g7 check as well. Alright, for the moment, let's go back. And maybe castle and double the rooks on d6. So castle queenside looks, and that looks good for d6. I don't mind that structure there because that will be another backward pawn. There'll be 2 backward pawns here on d6 and h6. And you can imagine knight f5 hits both of them actually. You can imagine this structure with g4, knight f5. I'm hitting both d6 and h6 there. I think knight f5 anyway looks good, whatever happens. But this looks ideal, knight f5 and g4. I think immediately might be possible because d5 I can take with the rook, don't have to take with the pawn and lose the knight. d5 take with the rook and still threatening rook d6 check. That's nice in principle to fix down pawns, but it's probably an overkill at the moment, given this d6 pawn is there, just in this position available, it seems. So let's see. Rook takes d6 check. I can actually just take this other pawn off. And there's another pawn here to take with knight d6 if I'm being greedy. I can try for a mating net with check, and then it's rookies. That's almost amazing. In fact, I think I'll try for the mating stuff. King e6, maybe f4, take away the escape square. So that rook e7 is a mate threat now. So taking away escape squares is a key. I believe a key consideration for attacking players, how you take away key escape squares. It's a very fast way often just of ensuring checking for mating nets. I think here is rook h6 is mating. So king f6, rook h6. Thanks to the game, small student. Good question. I'll do this. So this is the Kopeck system. Danny Kopeck, he was a professor of computer science. I played him a bit. I played him in Over the Board actually once. He was the first IMO beat, but he this kind of idea of bishop d3 against the Sicilian. There are some videos on YouTube as well that he did about it. It's very interesting. I saw some of his illustrative games. Sometimes he does get really good light square play out of it. So let's see. Bishop g4 would seem might be okay. It's, I don't know, a bit peculiar with the knight there. Bishop. It's a little bit peculiar. I'm thinking tactically that this pin seems awkward here with the bishop there. Yeah, maybe knight d4 is to be considered. I'll double the pawns, try and take the dark squares. So bishop f6 and bishop f6 is a major threat for bishop b2 at the moment. Maybe bishop e5. Okay, he's taking away pawns. Okay, he's taking away pawns. Rook b8 for bishop b2. I think actually I'd rather have bishop e5 for queen h4 than giving up my bishop, because he's got all my pawns here. I have to go for his king to compensate, rather than just win the exchange, I think. So bishop e5 and queen h4. he's got knight c4. Maybe there's rook c4, queen h4. Rook moves, queen h3 there to stop king f1. Queen h3 stops the escape. F4 hits the queen on h3. Oh, crikey. No, the queen's on c4. Let's run this through again. Knight c4, rook c4, queen c4. Maybe I could even throw in the check to put the king on h1, then queen h4. Simple as that. So I'm actually, maybe I'm threatening check and queen h4 here. Okay. Alright then. Alright, f5. Oh. Let's just do this. f6. Install on the dark squares some pieces. Maybe g4 actually driving the queen away. And there's rook g4 at the moment. Rook g4, g4. I mean rook g7, g4. And gives knight f3. Queen h4, bishop g5. Or just knight f3. Knight f3 and bishop e5. Bishop e5, f5 and queen h4. Looks good. Let's say it does rook g2, bishop e5, queen moves. Let's pin that. I can torture the pin here. Oh. Okay. He's got a dreaded simplification of the position that I didn't want. Can I target h2 still, even without the queens on, which I didn't want? So bishop e5, rook h5, try and target h2. Right, so okay, knight h4. Oh no. I don't like the way this is going at the moment. Don't tell me there's f4 now and he's on the bishop. There's a check or bishop move. Great. This is certainly not the scenario I wanted for Mania. I thought I had some good attack. Anyway, now he's got this passed a pawn. Can I try and use my king? maybe there's 94. Oh, I don't think I've got a mating in that. But I drag my pawn down. I'm gutted actually. I'm actually gutted. I hate throwing away attacking positions. I'm actually really gutted. I don't know. I just, how did I throw this away? Okay, anyway, okay. I thought it was too awkward over here for, okay. Well played, yeah. No, it was very resourceful, F4 and stuff. It was the only thing to do. I mean, okay. Non-premium have to decline. Moby. Oh, let's not pre-move. Okay. Stop pre-moving. Stop pre-moving. It's not bullet chess. Okay. I have to remind myself this isn't bullet chess. Okay. He could have played d5. He could have just won a piece there. Let's just try and play a bit more carefully. I don't mind d5 here. I think I'll just put the knight back. Right. ed and knight d4. Isn't that a free centre pawn? Bishop h6, there's knight f5 to kick the bishop out. I'm just looking for other compensation factors. ed, knight d4. Knight d4, bishop d4. What is there? There's no immediate checks in that position. Alright, can I take this pawn? It's kind of a central control thing, I think. Alright, so let's see. Knight e5, bishop e5. C-pawn is a bit of a pain. Let's try and do something about this c-pawn. So rook c8, h5, knight g4 might be a good idea in this position, just to try and get some sort of attack there as well. Rook c8, h5, knight g4 springs to mind. Right, this is a useful peg, I think, in this position. This g4 square, to just have a peg there. c5 might be possible here. Yeah, maybe. That knight's just too comfortable in the centre. I'm going to threaten to kick it away. I think there's bishop f5 here. Knight b5, bishop f5. Looks nasty. Okay, I didn't expect that. Alright, thanks for the game, Moby. I'm not having a 2-second increment game at the moment. And I think we played before. Yuzan? Okay. Knight f4, if queen e3, knight takes g2 is a common thing to think about. So does he take knight f4? Okay, it stops that altogether. That could be an annoying pin because he's weakened that g4 square. Right, hits my rook. Can I play for f5? Do I give up that e4 square? Is that really bad if I play for f5? No, my bishop is needing squares. Let's go back. Bishop c8, knight g4 instead. Maybe that's overkill. Maybe bishop d7 was fine, actually. I can't ever take like this because that h-pawn is too weak. So he's getting me on the ropes here. Passive. Okay, it looks passive. In fact, I'm being squeezed on this side with nothing to do on that side. Can I take and then b6 for knight c5? Maybe this is something to do. Oh, as I'm doing nothing, I can't. I got to try and do something. Basically, this doesn't look good in principle. This what I've just done, but it's maybe some tactics are created. CB. Okay, I played knight c5 at least to get a square for the knight. In fact, there's f6 here, isn't there? It's now that e6 square. There's no h3 for the knight. So I think that's very good news if I can just winning that pawn. Let's get the queen out of the firing line. I think b5 is fine to shield the a6 pawn. I probably want to get a rook into d4 here. Rook d8, rook d4. Okay, there's rook a4. See if I can target that. He's not going to give me the e5 square, is he? Oh, he is. Alright, knight e5, knight h5. There's bishop g4 there. This looks like a gigantic place for a knight in the circumstance. Knight e6, queen e6. I'm covering c4 at the moment. Right, bishop g4 looks as though I'm safeguarding some points. Oh, there's queen b3 check. Oh, the rook is held by the pawn anyway. So I'm basically weakening, I hope, f3 here. Right, queen f7 seems logical. holding c7, keeping contact with the center squares as well. Bishop takes almost, queen d5 comes into mind. There's two rooks protecting that knight. It's not working. No. Okay, bishop takes e2. Or does rook e8? What about rook e8 here? Let's look at the tactics of this. Bishop g4, knight g4, there's knight c7. HG instead, I'm looking forward to knight f3 check. So I'll go rook e8 for a moment. Alright, this gives me the threat of knight f3 check now. Which is ignored. He gave me that pawn as a hook for f3 just then. And I can take on e4. I think this is good news, basically. I can just take the queen. Alright, thanks for the game, Yuzan. I can't accept from premium members. There's a 3-minute game to end up with, which is good timing. Okay, thanks. I think this will be the last game of the session. I hope you enjoyed it today. 1 fun, 10 boring if you want to vote. Okay, so it's Smith Mora. In fact, why didn't I think about queen b3 just then? Alright. I don't know. It's a 3-minute game. Let's stop knight d4 for a moment. Let's bring the bishop to g3. Okay, bishop g3, f4, e5. Okay, this could be handy on a4 in some scenarios, I imagine, potentially. Maybe b6 is useful. But first I'll go for e5. And then what? Bishop f2 for knight b6, maybe. Knight d5, I just take that, and e6. Knight d7, I just take that. Knight e8, bishop f2 for knight b6. So knight b6 threatens. Oh, rook d7 might be handy. Rook d7. I'll go with rook d7 for a moment. Okay, now queen f3 hits f7. Knight e5, rook e5, queen f7. I'm hitting also c6, rook. So yeah, queen f7 and queen f8 on knight e5. Just need to get rid of the knight. Okay, maybe that's not so easy. Okay, think. Knight b6 here wins an exchange, doesn't it? Bishop e6 for queen g8. Bishop e6, queen g8. Let's check though. Let's just move this for a moment. Back. Oh, knight h4, knight f4. Knight f4 might be good for g2 for queen d7. Alright, knight f4 is dangerous. No, knight f4, queen takes f8. The knight's holding f8. Okay, otherwise yeah, deflecting the rook would be nice in principle. I'm threatening bishop takes e6. Okay, yep. All right, okay. Okay, hope you enjoyed today. Thanks for the games, guys. And a couple of you, yeah, had, I'm sure, winning positions there. And it's just clock pressure and blitz as well, factor in. Thanks very much. Have a good rest of the weekend. See you next week. Cheers then.